Imagine a man who never led an army or wore a crown, yet his words shaped the destiny of billions of people for over 25 centuries. You are looking at a teacher whose ideas outlived empires and survived the burning of his books by angry emperors. His name was Confucius, known to the world as Confucius, and he lived in a world where everything was falling apart. In this video, we will travel back to ancient China during a time of constant war to see how one man tried to save society through kindness and manners. We will explore the secrets of his wisdom and why his name is still spoken in classrooms and boardrooms across the globe today. Before we see how this wandering teacher changed the entire world, please subscribe to History Memory Chronicles right now to join our community of history lovers. Our story begins in the year 551 before the Common Era in a small place called the State of Lu. China was not the giant united country we know today, but a collection of small states that were always fighting each other for power. Confucius was born into a family that had once been important but had lost all their money and standing in the world. His father died when he was only 3 years old, leaving his mother to raise him in poverty and struggle. Despite being poor, the young boy had a hunger for learning that could not be stopped by his lack of gold or fancy clothes. He spent his time studying the ancient rituals and the music of the past, believing that the old ways held the key to a better future. As a young man, he worked small jobs like managing granaries and looking after sheep to support his mother and his family. Even while he was counting bags of grain, he was thinking about how a government should be run to help the common people. He noticed that the leaders of his time were often cruel and only cared about their own wealth while the poor suffered in the mud. This bothered him deeply, and he decided that he would become a teacher to show others how to live with honor and virtue. Confucius did something truly revolutionary for his time by opening his school to anyone who was willing to learn, regardless of their social class. Before him, education was a luxury only for the sons of nobles, but he believed that character was more important than bloodlines. He wanted to create a new kind of leader called a Junzi, which we often translate as a gentleman or an exemplary person. A Junzi was not someone born into a high rank, but someone who worked hard to be honest, kind, and fair every single day. He taught his students that a good life was built on two main pillars which he called Li and Ren. Li refers to the rituals and the proper way of doing things, like how we greet our elders or how we behave at a funeral. To Confucius, these were not just empty rules, but the glue that held a messy society together and gave people a sense of belonging. Ren is often translated as benevolence or humanness, and it is the feeling of love and care we should have for every human being. He believed that if everyone practiced these two things, there would be no more need for wars or heavy taxes or prisons. One of his most famous teachings is what we now call the Silver Rule, which tells us not to do to others what we do not want for ourselves. It sounds simple, but in a world of violence and betrayal, this was a radical idea that challenged the powerful men of his day. Confucius believed that a leader should be like a North Star, which stays in its place while all the other stars rotate around it. He said that if a king is virtuous, the people will naturally follow him without the need for force or threats of punishment. However, the local lords and kings were more interested in building bigger armies than in being good examples for their subjects. Confucius eventually gained a small position in the government of Lu and tried to put his ideas into practice with great success. Legend says that under his watch, crime almost disappeared and people started being honest with each other in the markets. But the other leaders became jealous and sent gifts of beautiful women and horses to the Duke of Lu to distract him from the sage. When the Duke spent days partying instead of working on his character, Confucius realized he could no longer stay in such a place. At the age of 55, he left his home and began a 14-year journey across the many states of China. He traveled from one palace to another, hoping to find a ruler who would listen to his advice and bring peace to the land. During these years, he and his small group of loyal students faced terrible hunger, cold weather, and even threats of physical violence. In one town, the people mistook him for a criminal and surrounded him, but he stayed calm and continued to play his music. He told his frightened students that if heaven wanted his message to survive, no mob could ever truly harm him. There is a famous story of him seeing a woman crying by a grave because a tiger had killed her husband, her father, and her son. When he asked why she stayed in such a dangerous place, she replied that at least the government there was not cruel. Confucius turned to his followers and said that a bad government is more terrifying and more dangerous than a man-eating tiger. Despite his wisdom, most of the kings he visited thought he was a dreamer whose ideas were too soft for a world of war. They wanted to know how to win battles, while he wanted to talk to them about being kind to their parents and their neighbors. He eventually grew old and decided to return to his home state of Lu to spend his final years teaching and writing. He felt like a failure because he had never found the perfect ruler, and he worried that his life had been a waste of time. He spent his days editing the old books of songs and history, hoping that future generations might learn what his own time had ignored. He died in the year 479 before the Common Era, believing that his dream of a peaceful world had died with him. His students mourned him for years, and some even stayed by his grave for a long time to show their deep respect and love. They began to write down everything they could remember him saying in a book that we now call the Analects. This book is not full of long speeches, but short conversations and observations that feel very personal and direct. In the Analects, we see a man who loved to eat good food, who enjoyed music, and who was not afraid to admit when he was wrong. He was not a god or a prophet, just a man who believed that humans have the potential to be truly great if they just try. After his death, China was finally united by a harsh emperor named Qin Shi Huang, who hated the teachings of Confucius. This emperor ordered all the Confucian books to be burned and even buried many scholars alive to stop the spread of these ideas. He believed that people should be controlled by fear and strict laws rather than by the soft power of virtue and rituals. But the ideas of Confucius were stronger than fire, and scholars hid the books inside walls and memorized the words in secret. When the harsh dynasty fell and the Han dynasty took over, the new leaders realized that fear was not enough to keep a country together. They made Confucianism the official philosophy of the state, and his ideas became the foundation of Chinese life for the next 2,000 years. To get a job in the government, you had to pass a difficult exam based entirely on the writings and ideas of Confucius. This meant that for centuries, the smartest people in the country were all studying how to be virtuous and how to serve others. His influence spread far beyond the borders of China into places like Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. In these cultures, you can still see his footprint in the way people respect their elders and value education above almost anything else. The idea of filial piety, or honoring one's parents, became the most important duty a person could have in their entire life. Confucius believed that if a family is in order, the village will be in order, and if the village is in order, the nation will be in order. He saw the family as a small school where we learn how to be good citizens and how to care for those who are older or younger. Even in modern times, when China went through a massive revolution that tried to erase the past, his ghost remained. Today, his birthday is celebrated as Teacher's Day in many places, proving that his role as a teacher is his most lasting title. We live in a world that is often just as chaotic and divided as the one Confucius walked through 2,500 years ago. We still struggle with how to lead fairly, how to treat our families, and how to find peace in a busy and loud society. His message reminds us that the solution to our big problems usually starts with the small things we do at home. It starts with how we speak to our friends and how we carry ourselves when nobody is watching us. Confucius once said that at 15, he set his heart on learning, and by 70, he could follow his heart's desire without doing wrong. He showed us that wisdom is a long journey that requires patience, practice, and a lot of heart. He may have felt like a failure when he died, but history has proven that he was one of the most successful men to ever live. His quiet voice has traveled across oceans and through time to tell us that being a good person is the highest calling we have.